Good morning. We'll call the meeting to order, a special commission meeting in regards to the flood fight. Roll call, please.
Kolpak.
Here.
Pepcorn.
Here.
Preston. Strand.
Here.
Mahoney.
Here. I think this is Michael to start, or Nathan, who's up? We have some emergency contract awards that we're going over this morning that have been done, and the commission has to act on them. That's why we're doing it now instead of next week.
Correct. Yep. Good morning, commissioners. First, I thought I'd just step through a couple slides. I showed these yesterday at the press conference as well, but I thought I'd quick step through them again. So the National Weather Service issued what they term a melt outlook or update late last week. And part of that update, they had this graphic. And at that time, they're saying we really need to concentrate on the right-hand side of the graph. And the reason for that is because we have experienced a longer winter than normal. The melt is getting delayed, and we have been experiencing some additional precipitation since their probabilistic forecast was issued in March 23rd was the date that was issued. So what does that mean for us here in Fargo? It really means that we need to concentrate on those blue and pink boxes. So the 50% and higher probability. So a 34-foot flood up to a 39-foot flood is still the possibility for what we could experience this spring on our eventual river crest. What does that mean for us in terms of potential emergency needs? Here on the graph, on the upper hand side, you've seen this before, but we still will be relying on our almost 30 miles of permanent levees and flood walls, which is still very good for us as a community that the investment we've made over the past 14 years is really paying off for us here this spring flood, that we're able to rely on those in terms, or as a result, our emergency needs significantly reduced for potential higher river crests on the red. So if we had that 37-foot flood, we're still looking at slightly less than a mile worth of emergency levees. 38-foot river crest is still what we're planning for, is about 2 miles worth of emergency levees, and then a 39-foot crest, of course, is about 6 miles. So like I mentioned in previous meetings with you, we're planning for a 38-foot river crest, but we won't actually start deploying any of these emergency measures until we have an actual crest being forecasted by the National Weather Service. And that has not quite occurred yet, but they have issued initial deterministic forecast for us. It's important to note that this is not including a river crest. Their forecasts only go out 7 days. So this one here was issued yesterday, shows the river reaching almost 29 feet about a week from today. They'll issue an update to this right around noon. So this gets updated usually right around noon every day by the National Weather Service now moving forward. But what they stated is that they anticipate that there'll be initial rise as they're showing. The river will probably flatten out somewhere around the major flood stage, which is a river stage of 30 feet. Stay that way for a couple days as the weather cools down later this week and this weekend. And then once the melt starts ramping back up, we'll continue to rise after that. And we don't know what that eventual crest level will be quite yet. And they did state that the probabilistic forecast that was issued March 23rd is still valid. So that's why we're still working off of those numbers that I previously showed. So getting to the point of today's meeting, we have a handful of emergency contracting items that we need approval on today. The first one is various items for our actual flood fight activities, supplying sand for the trap bags, as well as any crushed concrete needs that may be necessary is item 1A. There, we're recommending approval to Aggregate Industries and Northern Improvement. They submitted quotes back on that were good or favorable for us. Next item is the emergency clay levee construction. We issued an RFP for that. There we received, I think, about 6 proposals back. We're recommending Excavating Inc. be awarded that one based off of the hourly rates they submitted for that. The next 2 are our rapid deploy product installation and removal contracts. There we received 5 proposals, I believe, from local contractors on that. We're recommending approval to Northern Improvement and Fox Underground for the installation of those type of products. And then the traffic control is our last one and we received a couple on that one. I believe Northern Safety is recommended for approval on that one. And then Ben can speak to the emergency pumps and sandbag transport.
Good morning, Mayor. Good morning, Commissioners. So as we're ramping up here, we're getting ready to move some sandbags starting today. So the key to it is our transportation. So we received two bids on transportation, and we're asking for approval to award to Riley's Transfer as of this morning. They've done it for us many times in the past, and they were the low bidder on it. As far as the emergency pumps, we did receive 4 bids on that, and we're asking to award to United Rentals. You'll see those pumps probably getting set up sometime next week, because as we enter next week with the 28-foot flood level, we will have to have some auxiliary pumping capacity if we get a heavy rainfall or anything of that sort, because we'll be on 100% pumping capacity at that time. We'll probably have all the gates shut to the river.
Can I have a motion for A through F, please?
I so move.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Commissioner Strand?
Can I make a quick on A through G, please?
Yeah.
I don't have a G on mine, but, okay. Sorry.
Sorry.
Commissioner Strand?
I'm just curious, I'm hearing 2 different languages here. Maybe I'm just hearing them differently, but are we talking RFPs or bids or RFQs? What is it we asked for with all these different proposals?
For our contracts, we asked for proposals back that were basically hourly rates for their equipment and labor. And then we plugged in some various scenarios of assumed hours and durations it would take to build these clay levees or fill the trap bags to see kind of where they would price. But as an RFP, then we're also able to look at how their past performance has been as a city and their experience with these type of products, make sure that we're getting contractors that are very able to build these levees on the timely manner that we need.
And are we generally picking and selecting the lowest proposals?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
If they don't have to deploy the HESCOs, do they just have the contract, we spend no money? Or
Correct.
is there a
So
minimum?
for items A through D, if we do not deploy any emergency measures, there will be no cost to the city. So the contract's written in such a manner that there's no cost to us if we do not ask them to do any work.
Very good. Any other questions? Roll call vote, please.
Pepcorn.
Aye.
Colpack.
Aye.
Strand.
Yes.
Mahoney.
Aye. Second item.
Yeah, so the second item is a flood assistance agreement with the Army Corps of Engineers. This is something the city has historically done at any flood fight. What allows us is if our resources get to the point where we have reached the end of our resources, I should say, and we need additional assistance, the Corps is able to step in and assist us building clay levees, as well as provide technical assistance that they will provide their staff, that if there's some sort of issues going on with either emergency levees or permanent levees, their technical experts will be able to look at those levees and give us feedback on things we should maybe consider doing if necessary. We don't anticipate utilizing them today, but with some of the paperwork that has to get in place ahead of time, we want to make sure that we had this agreement approved today so that they could start preparing and not have to do a whole bunch of paperwork in a matter of a couple hours if we ended up needing them. But at this point, we don't anticipate needing them, but it's just making sure we get them in place if we so choose to need them.
So on the 209 flood, the Corps is an integral part of the flood fight, and this is how far we've progressed now. We may or may not need their help, but it's not as critical as that time in which they were a part of building our clay dikes.
Yep, correct. In 2009, 10, 11, and 13, the Corps essentially built all our clay levees in those flood fights. And the success of us being able to build all the flood mitigation measures we've been able to do in the past 14 years has put us in the position now where we don't need their assistance until we reach, almost a river stage of 40 feet or higher. So that's good news.
Can I have a motion?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Commissioner Pipcorn?
Just real quick, so just to refresh everyone's memories, at this point, we would be on Second Street building a temporary levee out of clay, spending over $1 million. And then one year we had to take it down and then put it back up again in the same year. So think of now we are sitting here in this building almost right where the levee would be. So it's kind of, obviously, there's been lots of great things going on. So thank you for everybody, obviously the city and the engineers and everybody. So it's great. Thank you.
Roll call vote.
Strand,
Yes.
Kolpak.
Aye.
Pepcorn.
Aye.
Mahoney.
Aye. Item 3.
Next item here is an agreement between the city and the county for the splitting of the costs for the joint sandbag filling operations that have started this morning out in the county's highway department. So this agreement just spells out how the costs that are being incurred for those filling operations will be divided between the two entities. And essentially, summarize, it's basically it'll be appropriated appropriately for how many bags each entity gets. So if we take a third of the bags, we'll pay for a third of the costs.
Very good. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Kolpak.
Aye.
Pepcorn.
Aye.
Strand,
Yes.
Mahoney.
Aye. Item 4, yard damage restoration program.
Yep, so this program was implemented after the 2009 flood and the extensive damage that was experienced on those properties that had sandbagging in their backyards. And ever since the 2010, 11, and 13 floods, we had a similar program that allowed for property owners to submit for reimbursement for damages to their yard as a result of the sandbagging operations. A component of that, though, is in order for them to be eligible for city reimbursement, they must first submit to their insurance company. And if they get denied or if their premiums would go significantly higher, then they would become eligible for this program. So the goal is to have the property owner's insurance company pay for it. And if the insurance company does pay for it, then we would also pay the deductible at that point for it too. So in 2010, 11, 13 is essentially what I'm recommending for approval here today. Those years, we paid out less than $50,000 each year. I think in 2013 it was like $20,000, $30,000. So it's a minimal cost, but it is an option for the property owners to utilize to, if we have to place sandbags in their backyards, to have their yards restored. And then also included is a right of entry form, basically allowing us to enter into their property to be able to complete these sandbag levies.
And Nathan, now, when we go in the backyards, oftentimes we'll put plywood down and do a variety of things so we don't destroy the yard much better than we used to in the past. I mean, in 209, we were in a cluster where we were trying to get everything out. But nowadays, we almost are careful as we go into their yard, lace the bags.
Yep, we have done that in the past. With the amount of sandbags we're talking this year, we may not even have to do that. We might be able to get a train of volunteers from the boulevard to the backyards as well, since we're not talking the millions of sandbags that we've talked about in the past as well. So that's part of the next phase that we'll have to look into further here if we need to start deploying sandbags. So how is best to do that?
Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions?
I have a question for Nathan. So we have less than a handful of houses left to acquire. And so to me, this would be an opportune time to encourage them to get this wrapped up. Is that being considered?
Yeah, so we have reached out to all the remaining property owners here within the last month to re-engage with them to acquire, hopefully start that process to acquire those last handful of properties that we have. We do have one that is currently occupied that we do own. And part of the agreement with that individual was that we would not flood fight that structure if we so need to at those levels.
So can I ask one more question? So let's say that we're hoping that the flood levels do not get that high, but hypothetically, if there are some of these, are they going to be in charge of defending their own home? There's some of those where we would build the levee on the other side.
I would say that decision's up to you as a commission, whether or not you want to offer sandbags to those folks that we've been trying to acquire or not.
Mr. Chair, my comment is we've been doing this for a long time and they're aware of this. And so to me, I think we need to, this is the point where you have to say, it's time for you because they're jeopardizing neighboring houses and neighboring neighborhoods. And so to me, and I don't believe, we don't know what the levels will be, but if it gets to be significantly high, it's time for them to go. And I think we have to prepare to have, I don't remember what it was, a quick take or something like that. We have done that in the past. So just from my perspective, I think we should at least have that in hand, that if, let's say that the worst happens and the flood gets very high, those houses have got to go, and we should be prepared to do that.
So I'd say additional comment I'd make there, Commissioner Pepcorn, is that with the amount of buyouts we have been able to complete here, we're able to isolate those homes fairly easily. A few of those that do remain, actually, we've installed valves on their sanitary sewer services in previous floods. So we are able to isolate our infrastructure, go around those structures with a clay levee and leave them on the wrong side as well.
Very good. Any other comments? Roll call vote?
Colback.
Aye.
Pipcorn.
Aye.
Strand.
Yes.
Mahoney.
Yeah. Any other business?
No, thank you.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So, second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.